I have been keeping ants for over 5 years now, and over that time, I have learned many things that there are to know about ant keeping. In today's video, I am compiling some of the most important tips and tricks that I have learned on my ant keeping journey that anyone from a beginner to the ant keeping hobby to an experienced ant keeper can apply. Most of these tips I have never seen any other ant YouTubers mention before, and most of these tips come from a friend of mine who is a very experienced ant keeper in the hobby and has become a good friend of mine. He was also the one who sold me the ants in one of my recent unboxing videos, which I will link in the description, as well as his Instagram and YouTube channel link. And I will also leave links to every single item that I mentioned in this video, in case you want to pick something up for yourself. I really hope that you all enjoyed today's video, and if you do, please consider leaving it a like and subscribing to the channel. I am now less than 50 subscribers away from 5,000 subscribers now, and when I reach that milestone, I'll make a special 5,000 subscriber video where I feature every single ant species that I own, and this includes some species that I have never before featured on my channel. So with all that out of the way, I hope that you enjoy, and let's get into this video. Here in this clip, I am opening a package from Amazon containing 32 glass test tubes with cork stoppers at the end, which cost me around $16. I personally prefer glass test tubes over plastic ones for filming my videos because the extra clarity of the glass test tube allows for better footage. But the main reason that I bought these test tubes in particular was because of the cork stopper, and that leads to my first tip of this video. In this clip, I'm creating something called a cork insert by cutting into it with my knife. The goal is to cut this cork into a circular shape, just big enough to snugly fit inside of the test tube, while also creating a small slit, big enough for your ants to pass through. Firstly, it divides the test tube into sections, allowing for your colony or your founding queen to feel safer when you add food to the setup. The cork also greatly helps to add a humidity gradient to the test tube, and it gives your ants multiple different options for what section of the nest would be the most optimal for them and for the development of their brood. This colony of Chromatogaster scutellaris, which were featured in a recent video of mine, are a great example of this. Due to the humidity that the cork provides, the ants have chosen to place their brood directly against it. I have also noticed that along with the cutouts in the cork, the colony has also decided to dig their own chambers within the cork. This is a good thing because it allows for some customization within the nest to best fit the colony's needs. Any cork that you have used in a previous setup is also reusable, and whenever you have a colony that has moved out of a test tube, you can simply take the cork out and run it between your fingers under some hot water, and it can easily be reused. Even if the previous setup had mold in it, and that's why you needed to move the colony, you can still reuse this cork. Just be sure to take extra precautions and care when washing it to be sure that it is completely sterile before you reuse it. The next tip in today's video is especially useful for your founding queen ants and any skittish ant species that are especially light and vibration sensitive when you go to check on them. Here in front of me is a roll of red transparent film that I also ordered on Amazon with the test tubes, and let me explain why this is such a useful tool to have. Most ants cannot see the color red, and to them it looks just the same as complete darkness. What I am now doing is cutting off pieces of this red film to wrap around a test tube that is the same diameter as the test tubes that my founding queens are housed in. Once I have the proper dimensions and the film is wrapped around the test tube, I then secure it with some clear tape, and once that is done, I now have a reusable cover for my test tubes that allow me to see the progress of the colony without disturbing them. I have many different queen ants and small colonies of different species, all housed in test tubes, some of which are extremely sensitive to light and vibration. I have one queen in particular that is of a very special species that I have not featured before on the channel. I won't go much into detail with her because I plan to reveal her during my 5,000 subscriber special video, but I will say this. This queen is especially sensitive to lights and vibrations, and I have had multiple times where I've gone to check up on her and she has eaten her eggs. This red film comes in especially handy because I don't have to handle the test tube or cause any vibrations to check up on her and see her progress. The next tip that I have for you all is something that I have never seen any other ant YouTuber mention before. It is very common within the ant keeping community to heat your colonies with some sort of heating mat or heating cable, but you can never accurately know how hot the heating cable is, and sometimes this can turn into a big issue where you unintentionally cook your ants. Here in front of me is a temperature regulator that you can also find on Amazon for pretty cheap. It might look intimidating, but it's actually quite simple to use, and it's also pretty important and handy to have. It has a main control panel, which includes the temperature, as well as some simple settings which I will go over in a minute. There are also two cables attached to the device, one being a plug into the wall and the other being the actual heat sensor, which I will show you. There's also an outlet plug-in attached to the heat monitor that you plug your heating cable into. Once the device is turned on, you can see that there are red numbers that turn on, which shows you the temperature that the heat sensor is reading. Once your heat cable is plugged into the device, you can attach the heat sensor to the heating cable with tape, making sure to cover the entire surface area. This then allows the sensor to read the temperature of the heating cable so that you can accurately see how hot it is. This camera doesn't pick up the red LED lights very well, and it appears to be flashing on the screen, but in real life it's a stationary number, and I apologize for not being able to pick it up properly on this camera. The next step for once the heating cable is attached is to change the temperature of the heating cable to the desired temperature that you want it to be by holding the set button in the middle. After holding that button for a few seconds, the number blinks, and you can press the up or down arrow to set the temperature that you want it to be. The best temperature to set it would be between 77 and 79 degrees Fahrenheit. There is also a setting to change the temperature to Celsius if that's what you go by. These next couple of tips involve the use of bottle caps, and the first tip is something that I have used ever since the beginning of my ant keeping journey. I have found that if you cut the outer edge of a bottle cap, that you can perfectly create a feeding dish for your ants that is durable and reusable. Here's a feeding dish that I made out of a bottle cap around 4 or 5 years ago when I very first started my ant keeping channel. It's gotten a lot of use over the years, and it's also been included in a few videos in the past. In this clip, I decided to use this new feeding dish to feed my Tetramorium bicarinatum colony that I made a video on recently, and as you can see, it does its job perfectly, and I also got a pretty nice time lapse out of it as well. Before I move on to the next tip that involves a bottle cap, I want to quickly mention that for test tube colonies, you can also create a feeding dish by cutting up a small piece of tubing, and it fits in the test tube perfectly as seen here. For the final tip in today's video, another useful way to use a bottle cap as a feeding dish is to put your sugar source around the outer edge of the bottle cap, as seen here, and then you can place your protein source in the middle. This method can prove pretty useful, because having the sugar source around the edge of the bottle cap instead of in the center reduces the risk of your ants possibly drowning in the liquid, which I have had some issues in the past with some smaller species like Lasius and Tetramorium. I really hope that you all enjoyed this week's video and found it to be informative as well as helpful, and I hope that some of these tips will be able to help you all with your own ant colonies. If you did enjoy the video and you liked it, it would mean a lot to me if you would leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. I am super close to 5,000 subscribers now, and it has been my goal for months to reach that milestone before New Year's. When I reach 5,000 subscribers, I will make a full ant room tour video that features every single ant species that I own, and that includes some species that I have never before featured or even mentioned on the channel. With that said, thank you all for watching this week's video, and until next time, have a good day and peace.